Hi everyone, I'm Dane Campbell and I want to welcome you back to Change with Dane. I'm recording this on the 4th of September 2025, and today I want to talk about specific barriers that I've often seen trip people up when they are making those small changes in their lives. Last time I talked about how to focus so that the behavior that you choose to change is small and it's something that you could stick with for a little while in that change to develop a new habit. Now, anytime you try to do this with a behavior in your life, there are going to be some barriers that can oftentimes come up. And what I want to do today is look at a specific behavior and kind of talk through some of the barriers that I have seen come into play when people have tried to change that specific behavior, so that you can get an idea of how to do this with any behavior, how to look at that behavior and consider what the barriers could potentially be. And then you can make plans to overcome those barriers and they don't trip you up, so that you just stop with your effort to try to make that behavior change. Okay? So last week we kind of talked about, just as a first example, changing the amount of exercise that you get. And this would be a specific thing that you would do if your overall goal is to have better health in your life. The way to get that is through making sure that you're taking care of yourself mentally and physically, by the exercise you get and what you put into your body or don't put into your body. So we're going to look at exercise today, physical activity. Sometimes exercise has a very negative connotation for people, but we can change that term. Remember how we change our thoughts and change the term into physical activity. Greater physical activity has a lot of benefits. You move your body. We're meant to utilize and move our bodies, and doing that builds muscle. It builds our cardiovascular capabilities. It actually has the ability to release endorphins, which make us feel better. So increasing exercise has a whole lot of positive benefits. Doing too much of it, well, that's a different discussion. But for right now, let's just talk about increasing the amount of physical exercise or physical activity that you get within, let's say, a week. Some people may not have been doing much physical activity, and if they're honest, maybe even less than not much. And that's okay. We can start from any point. If you already do some, maybe the goal is to do a little bit more. If you do none, then the goal is to just start. So let's talk about some of those barriers. One of the things that you're going to need is to consider what equipment is necessary for your increase in physical activity. Believe it or not, I have worked with people who didn't even have a pair of shoes that they could comfortably walk in. And so if your goal is to, walk 10 minutes a day, 2 times a week, then you probably would need to make sure that you have some shoes that are going to be beneficial to you. I've had people that would prefer to swim. And when it came time and they got out their swimsuit, it had been in the back of the drawer for so long that it either had holes in it or it lost its elasticity or whatever the case might be. So before you strike out and start the behavior change, make sure that you have the equipment that you're going to need so that on the day that you start to do the new behavior, it's not a barrier and you're not saying to yourself, I can't even do this because I don't even have the swimsuit or the shoes or the weights or whatever it is that you're going to try to do. So we're going to get equipment as a barrier out of the way immediately. The next thing I would like you to do is look at how you're scheduling this time for change. If you are very regimented with a schedule and you do not put this time on your calendar or in your diary or in your planning, it's not going to happen. So you actually have to plan the time that you're going to do the change. And I want you to put in enough time in that planning that you can prepare to get ready to go do it. And then when you get back, if you need to rest or take a few minutes to stretch or sit down or to just, take a minute to recover, that is part of that training time or part of that change time. Some people will, are so regimented and their calendars are so full that they will just put in that time that they plan on exercising itself. But if you're going to the gym to do this, it takes time to drive there. It takes time to change. It takes time to stretch and get on the equipment. It then takes time to cool down, and it takes time to either drive home and change or change at the gym, whatever you're doing. So a lot of people do not think about scheduling in enough time to do the full change event when it comes to exercise or adding physical activity to your life. And what can end up happening then is they then start to tell themselves, see, I don't have enough time to do this because all of the prep time and the recovery time gets eaten up by that, little 10, 15, 30-minute block that you have blocked in your schedule. And then you don't have the time to do the actual physical activity. So think about overcoming this barrier in terms of blocking your time or putting that into your schedule, the entire time that you're going to need to get there, prepare, do the physical activity, cool down, get back into your civvies or, your regular clothes and shower or whatever, and then get back to wherever you need to be for the rest of the day. So if you've already thought about that and kind of planned for that, that is barrier number 2 that is out of the way, taken care of. I want you to think about if other people in your life can be a barrier to your change. So if you come from a family that is somewhat sedentary and there's not a lot of physical activity, and the time that you all spend together is watching TV or playing games, board games, and it's not being out in nature, and it's not hiking the trails, and it's not walking together, there will be a little bit of pushback from the people in your life, even if they love you and they want to usually be supportive. So think about how you can overcome this barrier. Talk to them about why this is important to you in making this change. Help them understand that you're not going to be engaging so much with them in the ways that you used to. If it's a sedentary, kind of a system or structure that you come from. Look for people that can help encourage and get you going and maybe are there to help you do this thing in your life. But just realize that not everybody wants you to change. Not everybody wants you to sacrifice the time that you might need to do this. Not everybody wants to make the changes that they might have to for you to see success. So think about people. And if people are going to be your barrier, how can you have those discussions, and what can you do to reduce the barrier that might come about because of people in your life? And then finally, the last barrier that I want to talk about today is physical limitation. There are some of us who have some, because of time, because of disability, illness, injury, we have limitations as to what we can do. So you might have to be creative when it comes to increasing physical activity if this is you. And so, you might have to think out of the box. If you've never been a swimmer and your knees are bad and you can't run anymore and it hurts you to walk, you might need to do something like learn how to swim or swim better. You may want to look at yoga as an option. There are a lot of things that you can do to increase physical movement and using your body in different ways than maybe you've considered. So if you have physical limitations and you're saying, well, I'm not going to be able to run a marathon, that's not what this is about. Remember, this is about small changes. And maybe the goal is that you will never run a marathon, but you can become more physically active, which will help your health overall and will let you feel better about yourself physically, even though you might have some limitations and you can't do the things that you used to be able to do or that you've never been able to do. So let's think about physical limitation and how we can overcome that by being creative and doing different things that you maybe never considered doing before as in terms of physical activity, or doing things in a way that's less painful or aggressive to your body so that you can have some greater level of physical activity than you have right now. I know there's a lot of other barriers. I know that this list isn't all exhaustive, and I know that some of these things are maybe different than the area or the behavior that you're going to change. But this process of thinking about what those barriers might be beforehand and then having a plan to overcome them oftentimes will help you get past those initial challenges, right, with our thoughts and with the things that could hold you back, so that you go farther in developing the behavior as a habit to do better and increase your physicality. This is just one area. Remember, I'm talking just as an example. I'm not saying that everybody has to increase their physical activity, but this process can be generalized in behavior change, in whatever behavior you want to change to increase your peace and success in life. Hey, I really appreciate you listening today. Just to recap, we were talking about behaviors today and barriers that can overcome behavior change. And we'll continue this discussion about how to have greater success in behavior change in the next few weeks. I really appreciate you listening. Please subscribe if you haven't, and please hit like for me. I'm trying to get this process and these ideas greater visibility, because I really think that they're small things that can help a lot of people out there in the world. So please help me help others. And thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great week, and take care until next time.